It starts from within. Figure out what works for you, what supports you, what tamps down those voices and fires up the others. And for me, what I did was I kind of developed my own daily practice.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. I am so excited to continue our series on the coaches that don't suck. So
Woo!
today we have Michele Margolin here to regale us with her energy and her coaching experience and to have an impact. So hello, Michele. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Amanda. I am so happy to be here with you. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm really looking forward to the conversation and really happy to share whatever I can to support your audience in their journeys.
Love it. So as Michele and I were getting to know each other better, we discovered we were both IPEC coaches. So if you know, you know. So Michele, I'm so curious. Like just take 30 seconds and share with us, who is it that you serve? What is it that you do for them?
Thank you so much for asking. I am a leadership coach for women. I really think of my business as a disguised mission. My mission being really to support women to tune into their voices, turn up their voices, and to go after the things that they really can't stop thinking about, whether that's in their current role or making some bold move or a pivot towards something new. And I love it. I love just getting into the messy, meaningful work and supporting women to make the impact that they really want.
I love that. I love that so much. I think a lot of we coaches, we get into this because we just see that the world could be a whole lot better place if we just brought our coaching skills to bear. So I'm so curious, like why work with women? What is it for you that inspired you that you wanted to build a business, like a whole business, and to leap into entrepreneurship with this as your mission? By the way, the secret's out. You said it
Yes.
on the Amanda Kaufman Show.
So it's a really great question, and it's really important for me to share because I think I had an experience in my mid 40s that I think is not uncommon for women in that age and stage of life, which is I felt a sort of, even though I had been a practicing attorney and a facilitator and a team leader and a mom and wore a lot of different hats and felt proud and successful at them. Starting in my mid 40s, I did feel a growing sense of sort of wanting to, I just had this feeling that I wanted to contribute in a different way in the world. And I couldn't, I think the problem for me was I couldn't figure out how to start or where to start. And I felt really stuck. I was sort of overwhelmed with, well, this is who I've been, this is who I'm, what I've done. And I was stuck in thinking about sort of how to go about it, what the path towards something more impactful in the larger world, what the path would be. And I came up against a lot of things that we learn in coaching, kind of limiting beliefs. Am I too young? Am I too old? Am I good enough to do this? All the things that we do as humans, and I think as women particularly, that hold us back. And so, having worked my way through that, it took me a long time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Now that I'm kind of on the other side of it, I think that's really what has driven me to say, this is what I want to do for other women in the world. I think women have so much to share and we're natural born leaders. And really, the essence of my experience and what I work on with clients is leadership starting with ourselves, always figuring out what you want, who you are first, and then moving that into action mode.
What you want and who you are. I mean, I tell you what, after coaching for several years, asking a person, what do you want, is, I would say, one of the more challenging conundrums that a lot of my clients come up against, because they think they know what they want. On a surface level, they know what they want. But when it comes to that truth of your deeper alignment of, well, what is it that you really, really want? And forcing that articulation, I would say, is probably one of the most challenging things that there is, but it's also the most rewarding. Like when you can get so clear on what you want and get this permission to pursue that with abandon and enthusiasm, it's a completely different life experience than when you keep hanging on to society's expectations, your parents' expectations, your spouse's expectations, your freaking kids' expectations. Like, OMG, like everybody's ready to share what their expectations are. And I feel like as women especially, we have a lot of conditioning to try to make everyone around us happy.
Yes, true. And I would say this, yes, 100% on all of that. I think that women who are professional women, all women, wear, as I've said, so many different hats. And I think that what happens, is that sometimes your self concept can get a little bit lost in the titles or the hats that you wear. And in my experience and the experience of my clients that I work with, there is that point, wherever it is on your timeline, that comes where you think, maybe I'm far afield, or you want to take a look at where you are and who you really are. That's the self concept. And that was the hardest part for me. That was the biggest bridge for me to kind of travel across. Was I was very much in the, I'm a lawyer, I'm a facilitator, I'm a mom, I'm a school leader. That was my very deeply baked into my identity, except underneath it all, I was a lot of other things. And that was the bridge that I had to kind of dig underneath all those other labels to, what's the word, excavate some
Mm-hmm.
really important central things about me that I felt hadn't been really expressed. And that was the work. And it's not easy. It's very much worth it. And it does start with the question, what is it you really want?
That was actually one of my questions. Is, you've clearly done a lot of work and that's benefited your clients for sure, but for you personally, what's life like now? Like when you did, like, now that you are, like, if we were to take a little snapshot of it before and after, what, if anything, is a lot better than your previous experience before you did the work?
Again, great question. We know you have a coaching background because you're asking amazing, probing, insightful questions. I think that the major difference between then and now, before and after, number one is, I think that in learning and becoming a professional, trained coach, I feel like I have the world's biggest tool belt around me at all times. And so it's not that I'm still a human. The same things still come up for me, whether it's self doubt or limiting beliefs or assumptions. And yet I have this tool belt to call up things that will help me work through those. And the more I use those tools, the more quickly I can work through them. That's number one. Number two, I would say the biggest change is that I have a very different relationship with being uncomfortable. I was very uncomfortable previously because I think I had this sense, this conflict within, having been successful in many ways and wanting something else. That was very uncomfortable, and being stuck is very uncomfortable. Now I've traded it for the uncomfortable discomfort of building a business and changing or redefining my self concept and taking it out into the world. That's also uncomfortable, except my relationship to that is very different. I see it as part and parcel of growth and doing the things that are really important to me include being uncomfortable. So I don't,
I
so
love
that's a
that.
big one.
That's so huge, you know. I remember making the leap myself, you know, there was that formative year where I was like, okay, I'm leaving corporate America, going all in on entrepreneurship. And TBH, when I very first started that journey, I was like still thinking maybe I might create a product, like a physical product. Maybe I might pursue creating like a store or a venue of some kind. Like I was still in a very exploratory phase with my entrepreneurial journey. And it was coaching that just was such a radical experience. Like I'm trying to think of like another way to put it. I'm like, it was radical. And I don't mean like in the 90s version of it. I mean, it was like that before and after. Like I still remember the very first weekend that I did my very first coaching experience. And I walked in, you know, I wasn't a lawyer, I was a strategy consultant. But, you know, I think a lot of those roles demand of us a certain amount of like posture, a certain amount of, you know, no BS, cut to the point, you know, like there was just sort of, there's a lot of masculinity in it, actually. Like if I was to just sort of characterize it. And I realized in that coaching session just how pissed off I was, you know, because that conflict that I was feeling it was showing up in my body and my emotions, but I was so conditioned into like a suppression habit around that and not fully and loved what you just said, fully and authentically expressing. In fact, I'm looking up at my mission. Like our vision is that we believe the world is better through diverse leadership. AKA, you know, 50% of the room really should have women in it. If you're, anyway, that's like a whole thing, right? But I think the diversity of
Absolutely.
leadership to represent the population, and it's achieved through the risky business of authentic expression of self for the
Risky
purpose,
business.
the risky business of authentic expression of self with the purpose of service to others. And I think like what a lot of people in our current society and paradigm, they're looking for that authenticity. But is it authenticity with in the direction of service to others?
Yes. And it's a great segue in a sense that I would say that another answer or piece of the question before about what's different builds on that, which is I think previously, of course, we as coaches ourselves do a lot of the internal work, and I work with my clients all the time on the thinking and the beliefs and the self concept and the excavation and really bringing out what they want and who they are, and then the forward motion, right? Because we're always about action steps forward. I think that's a critical piece, not just the authenticity and tuning into yourself underneath all the conditioning and the baked in assumptions and expectations. I think the service to other is that was a big change for me and still is. In the moments where I feel weighted down by either overwhelm or confusion or any of the things that come along with coaching and building a business, I the way I quickly ground myself and right myself is to think this is for somebody else. This is servant leadership. This isn't about me. It really is about somebody else and the impact on them, helping one person at a time. And so that helps to quiet any things that bubble up in us as human beings when you think it's really, it's not about me, it's about somebody else.
You know, I really, really love that. And when I think about the struggles that a lot of people that go and get coaching certifications happen to be, you know, of a female or minority persuasion, right? And it's because or, you know, best I can tell, it seems to be because we benefited from it. Like we benefited from the experience of coaching, from the tool belt, like you talked about. But then when it comes to like that next step for coaches to be fully and authentically expressed and to share the journey and to invite people along, that's where most coaches end up like falling apart. You know, like where
Mm.
they're giving priority to the thoughts and the limiting beliefs around what social media is and what it is to market and what it is to sell and what it is to be entrepreneurial, like all of those thoughts that feel like kind of coming and kind of stop the progress. And so, Michelle, I'm really curious, like, what did you do to activate your confidence or your courage to do things like jump onto podcasts and do things like you do, just like, hey, I'm proud of my past, and here I am now in this new role. I'm here to serve. It is about you. How did you get past I'm assuming you had some noisy self-talk in the beginning because I feel like everybody does, but how did you move
Of
past it?
course. Absolutely. I had a heaping portion of self-doubt for sure. And no doubt, I think at every stage of building a coaching business, you will have self-doubt creep in. And so it is an ongoing practice, right, to kind of ground yourself in those moments. And so what I think for everyone, I work on this with my clients all the time. It's a really, I would say it's a great opportunity to figure out, again, it starts from within. Figure out what works for you, what supports you, what tamps down those voices and fires up the others. And for me, what I did was I kind of developed my own daily practice. I have a folder, it's called The Daily. I have it right next to me. And starting from the very beginning and including today, I sort of take a look at what my thoughts are, what's popping up. What are my human thoughts popping up? The unintentional, automatic ones. I write them down. And then I say, okay, Michelle, what is it I want to, what thoughts are useful? What are true? What are supportive for me? I write them down and I literally say them to myself. I put them on my computer. I refer to them. That's a daily habit. It's like feeding myself better feeling, more productive, more useful thoughts. So that's become a really important practice for me. I think of it as like a warm up in the morning, and that helps me and it's strengthening that muscle of, again, more useful, productive thinking and beliefs that then allow me to do the things like come on a podcast, speak at a workshop, write an article, all the things that if you asked me 5 years ago or even a year ago, I would have said, I don't know. But bit by bit, I fed myself this daily diet of intentional thoughts and beliefs. And that's a practice that I do for myself. And as I said, with clients, we always make in the moment custom tools. It's not what works for me, it's what works for my clients. So we figure out what works for them. And the invitation always is for them to do it consistently, little by little by little by little. And I think that's something that has really been helpful for me and for the clients that I work with.
I love it. Now, and you have been in the space for several years now. Like, what would you say are three things that help a coach not to suck?
Okay. One is I would say do the work on yourself, whether it's self coaching or peer coaching or barter coaching or hire a coach, keep doing the work on yourself to be able to serve other people. Number two is always think about the people you want to serve, support, and impact. It really take your ego out of it, take all of that. It's about somebody else, what you can do for another human being. And lastly, have fun. I think a lot of coaches, understandably so, me included, we can get weighted down. It feels serious. It feels important. It feels significant. It is. And yet, I think adding fun is such a motivating vibe and activates so much for us and with our clients. Have fun.
Really love that. I think you're right. I think people do take life very seriously, and I think one of the things that really changed mine was learning. There's plenty of studies that support this, but your productivity actually increases by 30 to 40% based on having a more cheerful disposition, basically. Like, it's like whether you're happier, more fulfilled, more satisfied. But I think a lot of people are walking around with a lot of consternation, a lot of fear, a lot of loneliness, a lot of seriousness. And it's like, okay, your health, your mental health as you do this is so critically important. And like when you're building a coaching business, especially in a personal brand, you know, there are going to be days where you're going to have to just show up and it's serious. And so whatever you can do for the rest of the time to elevate your general standard and to keep that performance high, do it. Do it. It's worth it. It's honestly one of your highest paid priorities is to do that. So, yeah,
Absolutely. And it is,
love
the
it.
world is full of a lot of reasons to be upset and angry and conflict and all of that. And
Totally.
there's a place for that. And yet I feel like that can shut us down. And that's the opposite of what we want to do as coaches is we're really opening up space.
Totally.
Our job is to give some spaciousness to our clients, and fun does that.
Yeah, exactly. Love it. Michelle, what's the best way for people to follow you?
Thank you for asking. You can follow me on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, Michele Margolin. My website is Michelle with one L, MicheleMargolin.com. On Instagram, I am the Michele Margolin. Sign up for my emails through my website. You can email me. I love interacting with people, hearing from them, talking with them, doing great things. Thank you again. I
Love
really
it.
appreciate the opportunity and the conversation.
My pleasure. And dear listener, Michelle has done a wonderful job. Be sure to share this episode with three of your friends. I'm sure you've got female leaders in your life who are looking for that next level of activation and they need to meet someone like Michelle. And go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. We don't want you to miss another episode. And leave a 5-star review. It helps other coaches to be able to find the episode and to tune in. They're going to pick us when they go for their walkies outside when they see that it's a highly reviewed podcast. And we'll also continue to attract amazing guests just like Michelle when you do that. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here, Michelle. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. You're the best. I appreciate you. I appreciate your audience.
Of course, of course. And we'll see you all next time on The Amanda Kaufman Show.
Bye, everyone.